When building a transit line, it is important to surround each station with walkable neighborhoods that provide people basic amenities that make city life more comfortable. This is typically referred to as a transit-oriented development, and it is done to correct the soulless, car-centric infrastructure that infests most of our cities. However, not all transit-oriented developments are created equal. Sometimes the walkability of the catchment area is hindered by the car-centric road design around the station. Sometimes the walkshed is chopped in half because it is adjacent to a freeway. Sometimes the developments got started too late, so when the transit line finally opens, there isn't much to look at. When a new station opens up and it avoids these common issues, it is worth celebrating. This is why I wanted to talk about an up-and-coming satellite city that lies on the end terminus of the Link Light Rail 2 line, Redmond, Washington. This is a satellite view of the city back in 2002. At the time, it wasn't much to look at. When overlaying an image of Redmond from last year, we can see the difference 20 years of upzoning makes. A lot of these strip malls and empty lots grew to multifamily homes that gives Redmond an actual skyline and a downtown. It went from being a suburb that you drive through and get dropped off at, to a city that you visit or maybe even want to live in. So let's get into how they accomplish this. Of course, a transit-oriented development starts with transit. Back in 2016, voters approved of the Sound Transit 3 plan, which planted the seeds for a future Link Light Rail expansion to downtown Redmond. When looking at a breakdown of how people voted in favor of this plan, Redmond saw the second highest percentage of voters approving the plan in King County, beaten only by Seattle. This alludes to there being a voter base who is strongly supportive of rail. However, Redmond's transformation began much earlier than this vote. In 1995, Redmond adopted a long-term plan that complied with the state's Growth Management Act. This designated two places for growth, downtown and Overlake Village. This essentially concentrated the multifamily dwellings within the highlighted areas, and it's a big part of why Overlake Village and downtown Redmond are as built up as they are now. Another pivotal moment came from a transportation study conducted in 2002 called the Connecting Redmond Study. This study recommended changes such as converting some streets into two-directional roadways, completing the downtown street grid, and using the historic BNSF rail right-of-way for future transit use. In the years that followed, the changes outlined in the study were put into place. The city purchased the BNSF rail line and converted it to a multi-use trail that would someday be used for a light rail station. The street grid was also completed and various streets were narrowed in accordance to the study. The Growth Management Act and the 2002 Connecting Redmond study laid the groundwork for densifying the city and creating a safe, walkable street grid. The only missing piece was a robust transit system. An important figure for bringing light rail to Redmond was former Mayor John Marchione. He served 3 terms from 2007 to 2019, and he was a Sound Transit board member. He believed the city must be connected to a regional grid because there was no way the city could build enough housing or widen the roads enough to accommodate the anticipated level of employment. Even though funding for a downtown Redmond extension was secured by the Sound Transit 3 vote in 2016, planning began a lot sooner. In 2006, before the passage of Sound Transit 2, the city conducted a study for various light rail alignments. Getting a head start on this allowed Redmond to get an official record of decision in 2011, years before people even voted for a Sound Transit 3 plan. Former Mayor John Marchione estimates this accelerated Redmond getting light rail by nearly a decade. This is a big part of why Redmond is actually the first of the Sound Transit 3 projects to be completed. Take notes, Seattle. When Marchione retired from mayor, he said one of his biggest accomplishments was creating a downtown neighborhood. While mayor, he made improving the downtown his top priority because it was vacant. There was no reason to go down there. There was nothing there. By the time he finished his 3 terms as mayor, the city's population had grown from about 49,000 to 73,000. The city isn't even finished growing. Redmond's 2050 comprehensive plan has paved the way for even more upzoning in the urban centers. In downtown and by Marymore Village, we may see buildings as tall as 12 stories crop up, and Sixplexes will be allowed citywide. One exciting project that will bring additional density to downtown Redmond is the Redmond Town Center project. Redmond Town Center is an outdoor mall, and this project will support additional homes, office spaces, and retail that is just a stone's throw away from the transit center. This will add 2 7-story mixed-use residential buildings and 2 12-story mixed-use office or residential buildings. This is a fantastic project that will absorb the surface parking lots around Redmond Town Center into more substantial developments that are serviced by the transit line. There are also other signs around town that indicate that there will be more upzoning in the near future, and it's hard to miss other construction projects happening around the city. These developments are exciting because they paint a bright future for Redmond, and it's also worth appreciating that Redmond has already put a lot of work into building a proper city center around the 2 line. Other transit stations have a few developments springing up, but they are not nearly as exciting as this one. The difference with this one is, if the downtown Redmond station didn't exist, Redmond would still feel like a functioning town. It would still be a walkable neighborhood where residential homes are co-located with public spaces and various amenities. The walkability of a neighborhood is defined by its street grid. Downtown Redmond has a lot of narrow streets featuring 2 through lanes and a median turn lane. There are some wider 4-lane roads. I suppose you could call it a stroad, but I would hesitate to do that. If the worst stroad in your city looks like this one, it's doing fine. I'm glad to see Redmond uniformly spreads its multifamily homes on these safer, quieter, more residential-style streets. In the times I have visited Redmond, I never have issues walking around aimlessly to capture B-roll for this video. That's not something I can say about every transit-oriented development. To see what I mean, let's check out Northgate for a moment. This is another major transit-oriented development in Seattle, but it misses the mark on walkability. I have gone here to pick up stuff at Best Buy. It's not too far from the station. In fact, you can see it from the platform, right here. It's pretty much a straight shot, but simply walking around is unnecessarily difficult. I must strategically choose my path to do something as basic as walk along a sidewalk. This quickly devolves into walking inside a parking garage or cutting through a parking lot just to get to Best Buy. This is part of the reason I haven't made a Northgate video yet. I don't really like spending time here. In contrast, it's so much more pleasant to walk around Redmond. All the streets have sidewalks, they follow a simple grid pattern. Basic stuff, I know, but it makes a world of difference. You can just get off the 2 line and walk in a general direction to wherever you're going, and you'll have an easy time doing that. No double checking a map or being spat out in the middle of the street, you can just walk to places. The only room for improvement along the street grid I can see right now is constructing a proper bike network. Redmond boasts that it is the bicycle capital of the Pacific Northwest. In their defense, this city does have its fair share of leisure bike paths, but if Redmond really wants to be the kind of city that deserves this title, bike riding must be treated as a viable way of getting around Redmond. Since a lot of these streets have median turn lanes and painted bike gutters, they could be reconfigured to add protected bike paths without substantially changing the street grid. This would especially be helpful because there are other shopping centers and office parks that feel too far to be within walking distance of the light rail station, but they are close enough to be within biking distance. The next thing a neighborhood needs is grocery stores that are within a short walk of housing. When looking for a place to live car-free, ideally you would be able to take transit to work or to school and walk to a grocery store. That alone would eliminate most vehicle trips someone would routinely make. Thankfully, Redmond is not shy of having grocery stores in its downtown. There's an H-Mart right next to the transit station, a Trader Joe's and a QFC next to each other, and on the eastern edge of town is a Safeway. You're never too far from a grocery store when you're in downtown Redmond. If there is one thing worth criticizing, a lot of these box stores are still suburban in design. It's almost like these surface parking lots need to be consolidated into a parking garage to free up more space for multifamily dwellings near grocery stores and the 2 line. Extending beyond grocery stores, there's an entire mall with various stores to do shopping or running errands. Isn't it great when a mall is located right next to a transit station? It sure makes you want to shop there more often. Too bad there's no other city on the east side that is like this. The mall is home to a shoe store, a theater, various clothing stores, and it has a pedestrianized street, so walking between each of these shops should be easy. In addition to stores, there also needs to be places for recreation. Transit isn't just about absorbing commuter trips to and from work. It should also be easy to access a variety of different parks and public spaces. Right in the heart of downtown Redmond, and near the 2 line, is this park, and it opened as recently as 2018. This plaza is the Downtown Redmond Park. It features a raised lawn in the center, outdoor seating, public restrooms, a pavilion, and a water feature for summer. And it's all surrounded by these multi-family dwellings. Throughout Redmond are these multi-use paths, so people can take a leisure bike ride, jog, or walk along these trails. If you're looking for more of a playground, there's Anderson Park. There's also a skate park near the downtown. All of these parks and nature trails are a short walk from Link Light Rail, and they are co-located with housing. There's just one more massive park I want to talk about just south of Redmond, Marymore Park. Getting to this park can be done by taking Link Light Rail one station away or going along a circuitous route along the Bear Creek Trail Bridge. There are plans to build a more direct connection, though. The Redmond Town Square project proposes building a pedestrian overpass that connects the mall to the park, but for now the route is slightly less convenient. This park is home to the Jerry Baker Velodrome, and there are various soccer and baseball fields, there's another playground and a music venue, there's a spot to fly planes at the RC Airfield, there's even a community garden and an off-leash dog park. There's a lot of outdoor activities in this expansive space. Not as many people would be able to enjoy a park like this if the 2 line didn't have a nearby station, and if Redmond didn't do so much upzoning so people can live within a reasonable distance of the park. It will be interesting to see how many people use the station just to get here. Marymore Park also has a sizable parking garage. I know people got mad at me for complaining about the parking garages in my Linwood Link extension video. The thing is, it's not that I have something against parking garages. When it takes 2 decades to go from voting for a transit project to being able to ride it, I would hope there would be more stuff built around the station than a parking garage. I don't take issue with this sizable garage because Redmond has so much more to offer than parking complexes. It has housing, it has a mall, it has parks, it has bike trails. Linwood is a place you leave your car when you head to Seattle. Redmond is a place worth visiting. That makes a huge difference. Redmond is truly a great suburb turned city. If you want to live car-free or car-light, you cannot go wrong with a place like this. The way I see it, transit is what brings everything together. Link Light Rail provides a direct through line to Bellevue, with Seattle and Linwood coming soon. It's going to get a lot of use from Redmond's residents, Microsoft employees, people going to Marymore Park, people going to the sports stadiums, and the list goes on. It's never been easier to live car-free in Redmond and still feel connected to its neighboring cities. I'm glad Redmond not only sees the opportunity to spur developments in the downtown, they also presented a model for a great transit-oriented development. This city has done a lot in the last 20 years, and it will only get better from here. Start early, concentrate developments around a future transit line, and build a walkable street grid with plenty of amenities and public spaces. When you do build around a transit line like this, it is a massive boon for overall ridership. The downtown Redmond extension opened in May 2025. In the 2 months that followed, monthly boardings along the 2 line shot up from around 80,000 to 90,000 monthly boardings to over 200,000. And around 40,000 of those monthly boardings came from the downtown Redmond station. The downtown Redmond station has more boardings than every other station from Redmond to South Bellevue. That is insane. It is not a coincidence that the highest ridership comes from the station with the best land use. Since the 2 line does not cross Lake Washington yet, this data is subject to change. But I imagine the trend where downtown Redmond makes up a bulk of overall ridership along the 2 line will hold true even after it connects to Seattle proper. The best part is, when you do take the 2 line to its end terminus, it feels like it has actually taken you somewhere. I don't get that same sensation when going to Linwood, and I am not looking forward to making a video on Federal Way when the 1 line is extended further south. I mean, have you seen what Federal Way looks like? Right now, Linwood City Center and Federal Way kinda suck. However, they are not doomed to suck. If they follow the same development model as Redmond, they may start looking a lot more like this after 10 or 20 years. Redmond demonstrates exactly what we should be striving for with the other Link light rail stations, and hopefully we do end up seeing the city's success replicated elsewhere.